My name is Linda Gabby, and my husband Sam and I moved to Song of the Morning in the Clear Light community 10.5 years ago. We had a long relationship with Song of the Morning and decided that this was where we wanted to settle and spend the last decades of our life, I guess you could say. We were drawn to Song of the Morning to be in spiritual company and to live alongside of people whose lives were dedicated to the search for God and for service to each other in that search.
My name is Wakenhut, and I've been here 6 years. This is my 6th summer. And what brought me here, at the time, my late husband and I were looking for a community. And we were looking for a spiritual community. We had both retired, and we wanted to be involved in our own spirituality, but involved with something that had purpose, that was more than an isolated community. An outreach was very important to us. People were coming in that we could serve and realize that we're still making a difference in the world from the spiritual point of view, because we had both in the serving professions. So it was a really nice match for us, exactly what we were looking for.
My name is Carol Armour, and I've been involved with the retreat since probably about 1971 or 72. I joined staff here in 1974. So my beginnings with the community actually started at the Detroit Institute of Arts, because I come from Detroit, and that's where Yogacharya Oliver held his Sunday services. And he would always talk about the retreat and invite everyone up, and so that is how I came here the first time.
Hi, my name is Steve Sandner, and I'm a resident of Clear Light Community, and I built my house there in 2009. I first heard about the community when I was in college, and I took a yoga class at University of Illinois, and there was a Swami teaching the class, and he told some of us about Yogacharya J. Oliver Black. And at that time, Mr. Black was a SRF minister at the Detroit SRF Center. And the Swami, whose name was Swami Nirmalananda, mentioned that Mr. Black was talking about starting a spiritual community. And I thought that was a great idea and a great concept. And of course, that concept comes from Paramahansa Yogananda. So eventually I got to meet Yogacharya in Detroit, and we came up to the retreat, some of us, to visit. It was a magical place. The experience of being in nature in such pristine environment was magical, as many of you know who visit or live at Song of the Morning.
I was a student at the University of Michigan, which had heightened my search, and became introduced to a disciple of Yogacharya Oliver, the founder here, who had been on the path for a long time, and he introduced me to meditation, because I felt like I was at a place where I needed something to control my mind better and not worry so much and so forth.
We, about a year ago, moved into this beautiful home that we had built here, and we love it up here at the ranch. I read autobiography probably around 1980, and then I got involved with the local Milwaukee meditation group and heard about the ranch from there. So a few of us came up and met Yogacharya, and I loved it. I love the idea of communal living. I love that Yogananda had this plan and that Yogacharya followed it through with such a gorgeous property and such a noble mission.
My name's Ian Wiley. I've lived here 16 years in this house. I've been associated with the ranch since 1973. The draw, of course, was Yogacharya, and all of us were friends. I mean, there were a lot of people coming and going, and it was a very welcoming and pleasant place to be.
Yogacharya was always talking about what Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda told him was supposed to be in this project that he had given to him. And he emphasized three aspects. Of course, there was the retreat, then there was the community, and then the third was the Yoga University. So there were three aspects of what the retreat is supposed to evolve into over time.
So it took quite a few years later, actually after Yogacharya passed away, the community was started by a very hard-working group of pioneers. And I built my house in 2009. My son, Christopher, lives there year-round. I'm able to be there about half of the year, and the other half of the year I spend in Sedona, Arizona. And my goal is eventually to spend more time at the community, at my house at the community.
I've been coming up to the ranch probably for the last 8 years, I'm guessing. And then every year we would come for different retreats, and I got to know the community members and really loved it. And one day Mike and I were standing on his lot here just a few years ago, and I looked at him and said, let's do this. I knew how much he wanted to build a home here, so here we are. And I just love the energy as soon as you drive off of Sturgeon Valley Road and enter the ranch property. There's a beautiful energy here, and the community members reflect that. So I'm really happy to be here.
I think there's energy here, which is just amazing, and it comes from the heritage here. Yogacharya, who was a student of Yogananda, that energy is in the land and in the buildings. And so I think that's a lot of what makes it spiritual. I think as I look around here, it's very beautiful area. The river, the woods, the wildlife is very healing. I think the healing piece of Song of the Morning is what was very important to both of us, because again, we've been in the healing professions. I think that's what, and the people here who've been here, some of them from the 70s, they bring that history, that energy here. And the young people do, very much, the young adults bring such wonderful energy and craving for a spiritual anchor, is what I see in them.
There's an energy about this whole property. Some people, it's just so tangible. I mean, they're coming along the road and they can feel it before they get here. My son's like that. I noticed it the first time I came when I got on the property. It's very appealing. What can I say? Obviously, there's the peace, there's nature, and there's fellow beings who are on a similar road that you're on. Certainly mindful of that goal. That makes a huge difference. But there is an energy field that's been built up here, and that we try to maintain, and that's the real draw. But I also love the animals and the trees. I just love it all. So what can I say?
I think living in the community, it's said often to almost be a cliche, but you're around like-minded people. And in any endeavor in life, if you want to become proficient at something like music or art, hang around with people who are proficient in this particular line of endeavor, it will greatly increase your progress in becoming proficient yourself. So it's the same thing with yoga. You're around other people who are very much dedicated to yoga meditation and the practice of yoga, and it's inspiring. We have the group meditations, and that inspires you to become regular in your own sadhana. And also being around neighbors, we develop a camaraderie and help each other. I had to get my car repaired last year, and the car had to be in the garage for several days. And my neighbor, John Flecka, didn't hesitate. He said, "Steve, sure, you can borrow my car." And we have our meetings, our board meetings, where we decide particulars about the community, how we want to move ahead, how we deal with maintaining the community. And they're always very cordial, and the spirit of helpfulness and a spirit of cooperation. And that's very nice. Sometimes in the world it isn't always that way.
I think that our arrival speaks to the idea of community, because we were anticipating that our house would be done in November 2009. And it turned out it wasn't even nearly done. And so our first experience of community was to be welcomed into George and Marianne Johnston's home for a month, to live with them as we helped to supervise the last phases of our house's construction. And then on the day that the movers came with all of our things, we had a huge snowstorm. And the driver, who promised that he would be able to get up here, took one look at the steep hill up Arjuna Trail and said, "This can't happen." Within an hour, the entire community had mobilized in every imaginable conveyance to come, and at the bottom of the hill, out the back of the moving van, they put things into their own cars, jeeps, trucks, and carried our things up in less time than the movers would have needed. And we felt in that moment so supported by a community that was drawn together by common purpose. And I think that if I would say one thing about Song of the Morning and the community here, but also just the idea of spiritual community, is that idea of being supported by people who come together for a common purpose.
All of us have different talents, and I think there's an appreciation for that here, for all the people here, staff and community members. And there's that opportunity to find your own way of expressing that, your spirituality, with the support of everyone here, the acceptance of everyone, what level you are in your spiritual journey, I think is really important. No real deep expectations for you to be a certain way in your spiritual journey.
Because there's so few of us, there's all kinds of undone things. So by and large, your community is the backbone right now of the retreat. If you go from house to house to house, you'll find we're either on the Golden Lotus board, or we're on the Clear Light board, or we're volunteering in the kitchen, or we did some project that if you ask the person, you'll find out what major thing they've done to make this place what it is. So right now, being here is really being kind of like an extension of the staff, or extension of the time period that many of us were on staff. It's kind of like another step up, you know, like you were here on staff, you felt what it was like. You went out in the world and you say, hey, this is where I need to be.
I feel very fortunate to be here, as I've said so many times. There are many ways to serve each other and to serve the needs of the moment, the needs of this place. We have aging infrastructure, so there's always in my little realm of experience, things are always sort of breaking down, and I'm engaging people to fix them, and it kind of helps, gives me something to do and feel, like I'm helping improve things. And that's kind of the way I go at it, is how can we make things better?
I love living in the country, and I like working together, on projects. One of the things I liked, I've always kind of remembered, the first people that had a house here were George and Marianne and Johnson. And somebody asked him, "Oh, do you have to do this and that?" And he said, "No, people just let you do what you want yourself. There's no demands on you in the community." I don't know if that's always true, but I'm always trying to assist, helping people.
My experience has been to work in the kitchen helping out, which is to me just a blast. I love it. Making wonderful, wonderful food for everyone, sharing in the community meals, that's a highlight. But the people, those that live here and also those that come for services, really make it special.
Some of these friends I've known for many years, and we have deep friendship. And then to share the whole yoga and spirituality with them, I would echo what Sue said. It's so fun working here, helping out. I like being in the garden. I wash a lot of dishes, cut and stack wood,
You're the
whatever
expert,
they need.
expert pot walloper.
Yeah,
And leading bird walks.
yeah.
I work in the bookstore and in the kitchen, and that gives me a chance to be with the people who come to retreat and to be with the staff, and to exchange what's happening with us and what we're reading and what we're studying and how we are moving in our journey spiritually.
I work on the trails. I love to make trails and to walk or run those trails as well when I can. It's halfway to a losing battle with the ferns, but if it weren't for the ferns, everything would be absolutely fine. It's hard to keep up with them. And we have the community garden here behind me, and I putter about in that. I'm not good at it like Carol or Gary was, or John's quite knowledgeable, but I have fun.
I like the idea of living in the country, especially in a forest setting. Carol and I like everything to do with the outdoors. We cross-country ski, we canoe, we swim. We just like going for hikes, and so pretty simple. As Yogananda called it, plain living, high thinking.
If any one of us needs help, there's no question about asking anyone in the community, can you help with this, or can you do something for me? People are willing to do that. And we know each other. We have times where we come together, meditations, services, potlucks, where people come and share and so forth and help with different projects that we're involved in. So I think that's a big part of it. And then just learning how to serve, selflessly serve. That's Yogananda's, in his teaching, he emphasizes meditation, and the Kriya Yoga meditation is, it's the focal sort of part of the Raja Yoga thing. But the ideal of selfless service is in there.
The evening meditations, the longer meditations, the Sunday service, and then having everyone come here on Sundays, and you have, you take the name Self-Realization Fellowship. Self-realization is about the inner expansion of your consciousness. But where does the fellowship come in, right? So you come here, right? You come on this property, you go to the service, you go sit down at what we have always called over the years fellowship dinner. And you meet people that have been your friends for life. You meet people who are here for the first time. You will meet people who maybe will never come back, people who will become part of the group. You don't have to go anywhere. It all comes to you. It's really quite an experience. I haven't missed Sunday service even when I was living in Gaylord, probably unless we were traveling somewhere, because that's how powerful that event is. So yeah, that's my favorite. It certainly isn't the only thing. It's always fun to work on projects. I'm a project person. So now we're doing the restoration of the river and wetlands, bringing back, I'm a big bird person, bringing back a habitat for our, hopefully our trumpeter swans and certain things like that.
The meditations in the evenings are critical to me, and I think to most of the people here, to be able to come in and gather and be with a group that is, we are all searching and in a quiet meditative state in a building that has huge spiritual energy.
I think it's different for everybody. And, people sometimes say, well, why do I do what I'm doing, or why does Carol? And it's really clear to us, we're disciples of Yogananda. As a spiritual seeker, it's healthy to serve at the same time you're meditating.
I was thinking of that question, why? Why here, why that? And a quote from Paramahansa Yogananda that is just central to my heart came to me right away, and it was this one. To me, this speaks to my own search and what it is that drives me to go deeper and deeper as best I can, but also why we exist as a retreat community here in this remote corner of northern Lower Peninsula, Michigan. He wrote, "Self-realization is the knowing in body, mind, and soul that we are one with the omnipresence of God, that we do not have to pray that it come to us, that we are not merely near it at all times, but that God's omnipresence is our omnipresence, that we are just as much a part of Him now as we ever will be. All we have to do is improve our knowing." In this last part, improve our knowing, all we have to do is improve our knowing. It's like, for me, this is what it's about, is to live in a way to apply to this life those practices that will help increasingly to improve that knowing. And the promise is that the truth of who and what we are it already exists, it's complete, it's whole. But we have to know that, and so by removing the veils, slowly, slowly, one after another, we come more and more clear and able to see that. So what does Yogananda say about community? He says environment is stronger than willpower, and that if you put yourself in a supportive environment, it's much easier to live a life that is conducive to clearing those veils, to being steady and strong, and to living within the teachings. And so to live in a spiritually charged environment where we have the vibrations of Yogananda and our founder, Yogacharya Oliver Black, but also the combined intent of all of us together to support each other. Ram Dass said we're just walking each other home. So to live in a community where we're here walking each other home is really significant to me.
To be able to spend the time in the spiritual piece of it. That's why it's great to live here, because it's always accessible. I don't have to work hard to get to it. It's right here in front of me all the time. Even at times when I think I don't need it or don't want it, it's there. And I always know I can get to it quickly if I want to.
I would encourage anyone that's thinking about it to just come up and spend a little time here. Just rent one of the rooms, get to know the people a little bit, and see if it doesn't really resonate with you. I don't have a desire really to want to be or live anywhere else. This is a wonderful spot.
This place has a vibration. And if you're a person who is sincere about your spiritual development, you know what helps you and you know what doesn't, right? And to be in a vibration that helps you with your meditations, that's what this is all about. And that's the only reason of having a community on this sort of a property. You could have a community anywhere. You can live in a community anywhere. But if you join this community, you're living in a vibration that will help you with your inner practice, because that's why it was started in the first place. Master's teachings are for God realization. So that's why you come here.
I do love living in the community. I like being there in the morning. When you wake up, there's very little sound. It's just the sound of a little breeze and some birds. And that's just such a rare experience. It affects your nervous system, it affects your soul, it affects your astral body, I believe. So I have a very positive feeling about being in the community and spending more time in the community and the future of the community and the growth of the community.